Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School. Um, I was looking at this story and I wanted to talk to you guys about it because I'm trying to understand how all this works. Um, it was a story about Detroit, and it's out of the Detroit Free Press. And the story is, and I'll read some of this to you. In its latest crackdown on school corruption in Detroit, the federal government today dropped a legal bomb on 12 current and former principals, one administrator, and a vendor, all of them charged with running a nearly $1 million bribery and kickback scheme involving school supplies that were rarely ever delivered. At the heart of the alleged scheme is businessman Norman Shy, 74, who is accused of paying $908,000 in kickbacks to 12 Detroit public school principals who used him as a school supply vendor in exchange for money, some for as little as $4,000, another for $324,000. He secretly did this for 13 years, scamming the school after school to the tune of $2.7 million with the help of principals who benefited along the way, prosecutors allege. Now, here's the thing. It's very interesting. Of course, the administrators that they're trying to put in prison forever are black. Many of them are distinguished educators. They have, some of them have received awards for their work in school turnarounds and things like that. And it's obviously conflicted, right? I mean, nobody wants to say that corruption is okay, right? Nobody would ever say that. We're not condoning that at all, but it's all about the nuances of a story. That's what really makes the difference. It's the details. It's the continuum of extreme criminality. Innocence versus extreme criminality are at opposite ends of the spectrum. Everybody lies somewhere along the middle. Now, the thing about this that's really interesting to me is that whenever I hear about some major scheme that involves some educator being sent to prison, they're always black. Why in the hell are the people that they're always sending to prison for alleged educational corruption are always black? When that mother was sent to prison for sending her children to the wrong school, Kelly Williams Bolar and another woman out in the East, I can't remember her name, they were black. When they lined up all those educators and teachers and principals in Atlanta to send them to prison, they were black. In Detroit, when they're trying to send these educators to prison for this kickback scheme, they're black. Now, if I didn't know any better and I was watching the news and I didn't know anything about America, I would just think, what the hell's going on? Why are all the black educators the corrupt ones? Or why are, whenever I see a case of corruption or somebody being sent to prison for some educational fraud, it's a black person. And this is something that I think only people who are sensitive to racism really understand this. An ignorant person is going to look at this story. I'm not going to say ignorant. A less enlightened, or shall we say a shallow thinking person can look at this story and say, oh, what they did was wrong. They should go to prison because they're hurting the kids. And that's what they always lean on when they talk about when they're doing the case in court and they're trying to make their case, the prosecutors to send in prison. They're always going to lean on the kids. They're harming the children. They're harming the children. They're harming the children. They're harming the children. But you didn't give a damn about harming the children when you were poisoning the water in Flint, Michigan. You weren't even allowing the governor, all these charges being pressed against these educators for stealing what really over 13 years is not very much money. It was over 13 years and spread amongst, 12 people? So you take $1 million and chop it up for 13 years over 12 people. That's not very much money. That's really not very much money. In fact, what is that? A million? I should do the math. I should put it in my calculator because literally you're talking about a very small, very tiny amount of money relative to the amount of money that you would expect somebody to be sent to prison over. Let me do this. I'm gonna do this in my calculator because I'm dying to really know this myself. So let's take the $908,000 and we're going to divide it over 13 years. Now that's $69,000, $69,846 a year. So that's $70,000 a year. Now divide that amongst 12 people. You're talking about $5,820 per year that these people made from this massive scheme that just destroys the educational system and it hurts so many millions of kids. But yet you can't indict your governor for allowing the water in Michigan and Flint to be poisoned to the point where children will have brain damage for the rest of their life. And I bet you this, I bet you this, I bet you if that governor had been black, he'd be on his way to prison right now. He'd be looking like Kwame Kilpatrick. So here's what the reality is when it comes to corruption. Now I live in Chicago, one of the most corrupt cities in the country. They have a history of corruption. The corruption continues to this day. You saw Rahm Emanuel, the mayor, who covered up the murder of Laquan McDonald so that he could get reelected. And these Negroes in the South Side and the West Side voted for him. And I told him, I said, look, it's sad that you needed the murder of Laquan McDonald to tell you that this man was worthless. I'm gonna tell you like this, and this is my perception based on what I've seen and what I know. And maybe I've seen a little bit more than other people because I've got a chance to sit in certain environments over the years. Corruption is everywhere. I mean, there's corruption all over the place. There's corruption as high as the White House. I mean, you can't tell me that Barack Obama could instantly come out of nowhere and rise to the top of Chicago politics without some palms being greased, without some laws being broken. And what happens in some cities is that the corruption is so bad that you're playing on a corrupt, imbalanced landscape. So when you come in and you try to be uncorrupt, you try to be honest, then what'll happen is they're going to make you appear to be the crooked one, when really it's because you're not in alignment with a crooked system. To be in alignment, you have to look like this and just hope that nobody ever indicts you for what you did. I've seen very decent people, highly educated, highly successful, hardworking people who've done a lot of good things get prison time because they made enemies with the wrong person at the wrong time, or because we have a system that selectively chooses who they want to make into the bad guy. And it just so happens that in many cases, the people they choose to be the bad guy happen to be the black people. Now, do I condone what allegedly happened in this scheme? No, I do not. But it would be nonsensical to look at this scheme without putting into context what Detroit as a city and what Michigan as a state is going through. We're in a state where they're chopping budgets so bad, so much that they're letting the water in Flint, Michigan get poisoned to the point where they're giving brain damage to little children. That's what you're looking at. So you're looking at a situation in Detroit where cops, teachers, and public servants of all forms are being severely underpaid. Severely underpaid. You're also looking at a situation where political corruption is everywhere. These kinds of kickback schemes happen all the time. Don't stop. Don't pretend like they don't happen on a regular basis. Up in Congress, most of your congressional leaders don't do what the American people want because they're being paid by corporations. But there's some, maybe some of them are getting legal kickbacks. Some of them are not. Even your presidential candidate Hillary Clinton is this close to getting indicted. If she were a black woman, I really would be willing to bet you that she wouldn't be running for president. She'd be spending all her money fighting legal charges. She'd be trying to stay out of prison, or she'd be in prison right now. So when you put that against the backdrop and you look at this scheme that allegedly netted all these participants who got wealthy off of this, $5,800 per year. Okay, why not simply make these people repay the money that was spent or that was given to them? Why not fire them, make them pay restitution, let them go on with their lives? Why must we take a citizen who is otherwise productive, who made a mistake, and treat that person the same way we treat a person who rapes children? I mean, why would we take that person and put them in a facility with people who rape children and murder people? That's crazy to me. That doesn't make any sense. Because as much as people want to play the high and mighty role when stuff like this happens, a lot of people could get caught up in these little scams. Especially if everybody around you is already doing it. I mean, if you're stuck, if you're in a situation that's already corrupt, and you come in and you try to be the good guy, go into a corrupt scenario. Go for example, go into a police department that is bought and paid for, and try to be the good cop who reports certain behavior by other officers, or who will take a stand against all forms of police corruption. And watch how fast you get shot, fired, or prosecuted. Those are the things that are going to happen to you. Now, I'm not saying that this justifies the corruption, but I am going to say that it's very, very difficult to go into situations where a game's already being played a certain way and then decide, oh, we're not going to play the game. We're going to play the game different. Now, I'm not saying you can't do it, but I'm just saying that if people, if people go along with what's kind of already happening, for example, if you're talking about traffic, if you're driving down the freeway and everybody else is going 75 and you're trying to go 55, it's going to make for a very awkward drive. So sometimes you speed up a little bit so you can keep in flow with the traffic. And in Washington, all the way up to Washington, or in many local governments, there are ways that the game is kind of played, and it's very difficult for people to deviate from that. That's why, if you want to know why I stay away from politics, that's why. If you want to know why I don't endorse political candidates, I don't get involved. I'm not running for nothing. I don't want no government money. I don't want to be connected to any of that. I don't even apply for grants. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking people that do that. And if you get the grant, then God bless you. But guess what? If you get that grant and you misallocate a couple of pennies of that money, they're going to string you up like you're the biggest crook known to man. That ain't cool. That's not cool. That says that we're incapable of seeing the nuances between innocence and criminality. We will assume that either you're a criminal or you're not. It's not an on-off switch. Sometimes you have good people who do bad things. Sometimes you have bad people who do good things. And most of us are somewhere in between. So what I would argue is that in this particular situation, race is all over the wall. It's not to say that these people didn't do something wrong, but it's to say that it's very interesting that when white people do the same thing as black people, they get a second chance. People, there's many cases where they'll just kind of say, oh, well, you have to understand the blah, blah, blah. When it's black, it's like that nigga's guilty. Send him to prison. Who cares about his family? And I just think that's wrong. I know a woman who was sent to prison on some kind of bribery, federal corruption kind of charge, where she was doing good community work, but she misallocated some of her grant money, and they sent her to prison for 10 years, and she was a married woman with children. Was a good person. I mean, really, I'm not saying she's a good all the time. I'm not saying that she didn't do something she wasn't supposed to do, but I'm saying that I would trust her to work with. I mean, it wasn't as if she was a hardened criminal. I know hardened criminals, and she wasn't one of them. And so I remember just thinking, isn't there a better way to deal with this? I mean, why must you take this woman's freedom? Why must you ruin her life? Why must you make her a worse criminal? Because that's what our prisons do. Our prisons are only breeding grounds for more criminals. They create criminals. If you took, God forbid, if you took somebody like me and put me in a maximum security prison, and every day I'm fighting for my life, having to carry a knife in my pants so I don't get stabbed that day or whatever, guess what? When I come out of there, I'm probably going to be a worse person than I was when I walked in. Because prisons are breeding grounds for not just criminality, but all various forms of mental illness. So, when I see these teachers, to be honest with you, I feel bad for them. I think, if you find out they're doing something like this, you fire them, you get rid of them, you set an example, do what you got to do, make them pay 10 times what they allegedly, took in the bribes. Fine, that's how you can weed out the corruption. But trying to send them to prison, it's not only not only reeks of a racial issue, but it also speaks to just how ridiculous our criminal justice system has become. It's an absolute joke. So that's my 2 cents. Now that y'all are indicting these teachers and sending them to prison, you need to go indict your governor, because guess what? Your governor killed people. People are going to die because of what your governor did. Ain't nobody gonna die because somebody got some school supplies or whatever, or somebody got a school supply contract he wasn't supposed to get. If you want to look at people who are getting contracts that they shouldn't get, look at all those no bid contracts worth hundreds of billions of dollars that were given to companies like Dick Cheney's company. I forgot the name of the company, but his company that reaped massive profits from the Iraq war, where he's one of the people declaring war in Iraq, and then his company's making money supplying all the things that we need to go invade a country in an illegal invasion that was so illegal that there are countries around the world that President Bush is not allowed to enter because they know he is a war criminal. If you want to really talk about corruption, let's talk about the big stuff. Let's not talk about this little scheme where somebody made, each person made $5,800 a year. I don't want to hear about that. That doesn't affect my children. I don't really care. That's just for your ego, and for it's built on your desire to continuously persecute black people. Again, even in the teacher scandal down in Atlanta, where teachers were being sent to prison for cheating on tests, oh lordy be, that's so horrible. There were white teachers doing that all over the country. All over the damn country, white teachers are doing that. Not one of those white teachers went to prison. So get out of my face with this nonsense. This is stupid. All right, everybody, I'm about to get out of here. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. And by the way, we are on tour right now. We are scheduled to go to Houston on March 31st, Kansas City, Missouri on April 21st, April 23rd at the Gym Theater on 18th and Vine. We're also going to Baltimore on April 28th. So if you want to know when we're coming to your city, go to thedrboycewatkinstour.com. That's thedrboycewatkinstour.com. And also, if you're interested in our wealth building program for children, go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. Blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. Thousands of children have signed up. Your child should be in there too. It will prepare your child for the future, and I guarantee it will make a difference in your child's life. If you don't believe me, or if you don't feel happy about what you get, then you can quickly ask for a refund. We'll give you all your money back. That's how much we believe in the program. All right, everybody. Well, I'm about to get out of here. Take care, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. God bless. Peace.